I think the big issue is making sure that we can continue educating and building up a skilled workforce. So that's the big problem. I know there's a lot of people that would be happy to go cut and process meat, but they wouldn't even know where to start. And I got to say, that's a little hard to bring into a meat processing facility. It's a heck of a lot easier when you bring somebody in that kind of knows the ropes and understands what they're getting into.
Welcome to MeatsPad, a platform dedicated to sharing breakthrough knowledge that is accessible to the meats industry. On each episode, we will hear from meat specialists and professionals to talk about numerous topics in meat science. This podcast is brought to you by the U.S. Meat Export Federation, the National Provisioner, Ultrasource, the new standard for innovation,
IFA, Meat Processing Power.
Viscofan is a global leader and innovative partner in the food industry who provides solutions for the casing market.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the MeatsPad podcast. I was a little bit gone for some time. I was actually traveling, seeing some meat processors in northern Mexico. Had the opportunity to visit Rancho 17, which is almost on the border with Nogales, Arizona. And it's good to be back. Dr. Bass, how are you?
I'm excited as usual, Francisco, and especially excited to have a representative here from that takes care of our medium to small size processors, and I believe there's some bigger ones involved there as well. But grateful to be here to visit a little bit about the American Association of Meat Processors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was saying that Nelson Gades, who's the other outreach specialist, he and I met maybe like when I was still doing my master's at K-State, and we had a good relationship. And he was one of the first folks that accepted to be on the podcast as well, almost like 2 years ago. And I think I'm glad to be back, and it's good to have this conversation with Abbey Davidson. Thank you for being here today and accepting the invitation to be on the podcast, Abbey. How are you?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm doing really well. Thank you both for letting me jump on and share a little bit of my knowledge here. So I want to say that you're doing great things with MeatsPad. This is wonderful, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you a lot. And we're very excited. This year is going to be the first year that we'll be in AMP in July, mid-July. So we'll be on site recording some episodes, having wonderful conversations with small meat processors who are on the front line, and also some meat science faculty will be in the competition for the product show. We're going to start. I think we can follow up with these questions in AMP, but I really wanted to know when I first interviewed Nelson, we spoke about some of the challenges, because this was one of the main reasons we started the podcast, was to get to know those challenges faced by the meat industry with all this pandemic. And so we talk about the post-pandemic, we can call it that way. What's the situation right now? I know we had a few plants starting late 2020, 2021. So the number of meat plants have increased in the United States. So maybe you can share with us a little bit of the timeline and where we're at today with all the small meat processors in America.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, since COVID hit and came to the United States in 2019, 2020, we saw a decrease of about 40% in livestock production across the nation when COVID really initially hit, and during those early months and mid-months of 2020, to where, issues with labor force and those getting sick, and those just seeing a lot of struggles within their personal lives and within the industry. They really reduced the livestock production, and the meat production. Livestock production was booming, but since then, since we've seen that 40% loss, meat plants are just still booming. And what I've seen within the last year and a half there are a lot of entrepreneurs that are jumping in and wanting to get their feet wet with meat processing facilities. The greatest part about that I think the niche people that are coming in is the producers of the livestock. They're just I wouldn't say frustrated, but maybe exasperated that they don't have facilities where they can take their livestock within a quote unquote relatively reasonable time frame. I know processors right now, a few of them are starting to book into 2024. So we're looking at over a year and a half out for livestock slaughter slots at their facility. And I think a lot of people would agree that that's just really hard to predict. And that's also really hard to keep as a sustainable option. So some producers I've spoken to are really starting to bring that back home, and they're looking into making their own meat processing facilities either on their land or somewhere close to, where they can slaughter their own livestock and process their own and also help their neighbors out as well. So that's a very cool niche part of the ag industry that is starting to look into meat processing and how they can benefit themselves as well as other people. And I got to say, those people that are jumping on this are really coming into a little bit of a headache, but also a significant ROI once they get up and running. There's just those livestock slaughter slots just get filled just immediately. So lots of change. There's lots of production. There's still challenges that we're facing as an industry as well, and we can get into those a little bit. I wrote some notes down, but really seeing an increase in production. We're seeing a lot of marketing techniques come out and about since COVID really started. Still seeing issues with the labor force, of course. I don't know if that's going to go away within the near future with everything that's going on in the world. So yeah, I mean, that was a long-winded answer. I see good, hopeful moves towards a better tomorrow within the industry, and sure hope we keep shooting for them.
So yeah, we could spend a lot of time here talking about all of the notes that you just brought up, because the reality is that it's across the board, regardless of the size of the processor or harvesting location. Is we're still running into labor challenges. We're still running into limits in technology, and then of course equipment due to supply chain challenges and just costs of doing getting those pieces of equipment. I'm grateful that I get a chance to not only work with small processors but big processors, and we continue to see similar challenges across the board. I did have a chance to recently actually saw Nelson out at the Northwest Meat Processors Association a couple weeks ago, and had a chance to connect with a lot of small processors in the Pacific Northwest, talking about some of those issues or questions that may be around. And honestly, a lot of the current processors, they were already busy. And then it's like this tidal wave came over the top of them. And so I want to ask the question about how do we help the small processors grow in volume, grow in capacity with our labor challenges, with our limits in technology, and especially with some of our equipment limits?
So great question. That's a topic of debate and conversation within at least the last 4 months that I've been paying attention to. There's quite a few avenues that I think as an industry, as those that aren't on the floor every day, can help those that are. Those that are doing the dirty work and getting down with the nitty gritty and processing this product, certainly I think could use a hand from time to time, and specifically when we're talking about labor. So one of the topics within the industry that we've been discussing lately is identifying ways where we can create clear, better pathways for skilled labor to show up within these processing plants. So I know NPAN, the Niche Meat Processing Assistance Network, they are putting on a Meat Processors Academy currently, and that's really going to help processors get a little bit of a bite out of each part of running a business. So last night, their processing class was on like renovating and revamping facilities, and also making them from the ground up. One of the other ones that they had on there was about feasibility studies and can you really run a meat plant? So that type of training is just phenomenal. Other ways to create that pathway that we're looking at is really trying to get involved with maybe younger organizations, so something like the Future Farmers of America or 4-H, and really vamping up those meat judging skills, as well as tying into the universities and seeing what we can do to prove that meat cutting processing is a viable career. So I think the big issue is making sure that we can continue educating and building up a skilled workforce. So that's the big problem. I know there's a lot of people that would be happy to go cut and process meat, but they wouldn't even know where to start. And I got to say, that's a little hard to bring into a meat processing facility. It's a heck of a lot easier when you bring somebody in that kind of knows the ropes and understands what they're getting into. So definitely increasing that pathway for skilled workers to occur is a big part of it. And then tying into that is extension support. Any way we can help out processing facilities and get that extension knowledge out there is still just another step up in building this labor force.
The mission of USMEF is to increase the value and profitability of the U.S. beef, pork, and lamb industries by enhancing demand for their products in export markets through a dynamic partnership of all stakeholders. Simply put, USMEF is putting U.S. meat on the world's table.
Well, and I want to, if you don't mind, Francisco, I'll butt in here, but what I would love to encourage the listeners out there, and it's kind of this catch-22. It's hard to find the skilled labor, but there's a lot of potential labor force out there that just hasn't any skill and doesn't know where to begin. And there's no such thing as the meat schools like they used to be, and everybody is trying something to get moving in that direction. What I would really encourage the processors out there is we have to consider adjusting the paradigm of bringing in the already trained individual, and let's get on to this on the job training, the apprenticeships programs, these ideas of, there will be a little struggle at first, but once you train that person and show the value of this career path, I believe you're gonna get a pretty good following going through it. It's a great career.
Dr. Bass, I agree with you. And one other thing I'll throw into that is that AAMP is starting to build a pretty strong internship program. So if you're a small, medium-sized processor across the country and you're looking for an intern to come and learn the ropes, that is a great way to get somebody new and potentially a new family into this industry, in long term. So wholeheartedly agree.
I just had a quick follow-up on, and I know when I spoke with Nelson, we spoke about the bottleneck. So I know he had some numbers 2 years ago on the bottleneck, the amount of meat plants, the big, large meat processing facilities that we know who they are, all the big guys that we're processing the majority of the beef and hogs in the United States. So now with all these new openings, where we're at, what's the current situation? Has that helped a little bit in case? I mean, because the plan, and we see it with the new USDA grant that we can talk here in a minute about that. But what's the relationship? I mean, what's the difference? And we compare 2020 with 2022 and with all these new openings. And I know there's some folks that I've spoke like, okay, we started 1 year and a half. I didn't have the enough. I mean, I was not trying to do this. I went and do it. I invested some money, but they didn't have any expertise in meat processing. And it's not the same designing the plan, putting all the layout, putting all of this in paper. But when you actually have it and we actually get the cattle and try to make it profitable, that's a whole different story. So I guess that's couple things, but I don't know, you can tell us more about our current situation right now.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Francisco. I don't have the numbers from 2020 to 2022. What I will say is whether you're a large processor or a smaller medium size, you're going to have these labor constraints that we're seeing. So we're not seeing the big guys, quote unquote, shut down or limiting their production numbers like we saw in early 2020. That being said, we're seeing other sources of bottlenecking that has occurred. Again, labor constraints are a huge part of it. Financial constraints are also in play, reducing the capacity for processors to expand or build coolers and freezers so that they then can in turn process more head, that kind of thing. So definitely labor and finances are a big part of it. Space constraints, there's facilities that they just have nowhere else to grow and add on to. So that's a big issue with bottlenecking, that we see the need to get these livestock in and processed so that we can feed the country and feed the world. However, we're just limited on space to do so. So that's a huge part of it as well. And then lately that we've all seen across the country, doesn't matter what industry you're in, is the supply chain disruptions that we all feel the effects of. So all of those tied into one makes kind of a big issue for bottlenecking. It's not, I wouldn't say it's dissipated from my opinion by any means. It's just changed course, I think. So I hope that that's a good part, topic for discussion here, because that's at least what I've seen. And I'm sure I'd love to hear you guys chime in and see if there's something different that you could bring to the table as well.
From the university side of things, I very much try to bring the applied meat cutting skills back into the 4-year education. It's a slow process though. And I strongly believe that if we can just get some of the folks that are out there that have even the slightest interest into the plants, big or small, we're going to start filling some of those gaps. I believe that some of the labor challenges were the reality that the work in a meat processing facility is not necessarily the most glamorous, and maybe the industry as a whole across the board hasn't kept up with what we probably should have been paying folks to do those jobs. But I believe also that we've gotten a lot better over the last couple of years, and the incentives to go and work in this very rewarding industry, I believe they're getting a lot stronger right now. So I don't know what the answer is. I know that everyone's running into the same challenges, big or small, it seems like. But there's a lot of good that can come from this. And you know what? Adversity always makes us think of new ways. It tells us, it forces us to be more inventive and use our resources more wisely. And maybe this is exactly what the industry needed, to just be shooken up a little bit, to come up with better ways of doing business and to bring in that next generation of meat cutters.
I mentioned that we'll be in AMP in Des Moines, Iowa. One of the reasons is I want to hear from the folks that are in the front line, what the challenges they have, and what are some of the issues that they face on a daily basis. But I don't know, you mentioned that you had some things that you would like to discuss as far as challenges goes. I don't know if you have something that you would like to share before we wrap this up.
I do have that question because I've had a chance to look at some of the grant proposals that have been put out by the USDA. I live in the academic world. That's my day job. I'm going to be very blunt and say that some of that paperwork is very confusing and hard to work through. And so are there resources that AAMP can provide for the small processors so that they can coach them through the process of getting a hold of some of this funding?
Yeah, absolutely. If you are an AMP member, we have an area on our website. You go to the area under resources, and then there's a little title called grant information that you can click on. And that's where we've been posting the latest and greatest grant information. On that same page, we have a list of consulting companies that would be happy to assist you as a new processor, as a current processor, to apply for these grants and hopefully obtain them. The latest grant that's been out isn't specifically there's some hoops to jump through with it. That being said, we're looking to see more grants come through potentially this summer that are a little bit more available to more of an audience, more of a acceptable resource base. So yeah, that's great. That's what we're looking for. There's money out there. Hoping to get that in for our small processors and really start to add to their business.
Well, and don't let the hoops be your stumbling block. Anybody who is inspected in any regard, we jump through hoops every day. And I'm not picking on our inspector friends out there, of course, but there's always paperwork, there's documentation, has to be reasoning as to why we do things. And that's all that the grant proposals are, is to demonstrate the good use of the funding that is available out there. And that's really good information too, Abby, is the value that AAMP brings to the membership. If you are a small processor, don't miss out on this potential value. If you're not already a member, it truly is a benefit because you get access to so many of the resources, including someone like Abby, but then all of the other network that's tied to it. And if you are sitting there scratching your head, how am I going to make this work? Use those resources. Use the folks that maybe have already gone through the struggles and can help you. And that's what this network is all about.
Dr. Bass, I love your energy, and I'm here for it with the ingenuity that our processors and this industry has to have on a day-to-day basis. Love it. There's always an answer to a problem. That's what I get paid to do. I get to find that answer for you. So if you can't find it, come to us. We're happy to help and get you your questions answered and help you succeed.
Well, thank you, Abby, for being here today and joining us. I'm very excited to what is next. It's be preparing everything for AMP here at Ultrasource, and as well we'll be interviewing some small processors, and I think I'm excited about that. Do you have any last thoughts? I think we covered what we needed to cover today.
How do folks get a hold of you and the association, Abby?
Yeah, great question. So it's just www.aamp.com. If you want to email me directly, my name has a fancy E in it. So it's ABBEY, like Abbey Road. So it's abby@amp.com. One last thing I'll throw out there is our AMP convention is in July in Des Moines this year. And we're looking at over 262 suppliers signed up already. And we are sold out of our first 2 hotels. And we've opened up a 3rd hotel for anybody that has not reserved their room just yet. Pretty excited about it. We're within 100 days of the convention happening. And we're excited to see MeatsPad there to conduct interviews or potentially have information where they can share that information via podcast with all of you listening. So
Thank you a lot, Abby. Dr. Bass, thank you.
Absolutely. Great to be here.